again, my MMA true believers. I am Jason BURGOS for Sherdog.com, and I have the pleasure of speaking with another fighter with, by chance, Boston roots. I've actually talked to another Boston fighter recently. He returns to action for the first time since October as he takes part in the controversial UFC 249 reboot event on May 9 in Jacksonville, Florida. A few weeks ago, I spoke with the Boston finisher, but this time I talked to the man known as Boston Strong. He's a brother in green shirts, and that is Charles Rosa. Mr. Rosa, sir, thank you for the time ahead of this upcoming controversial fight.
What's up, man? Yeah, happy to be on.
When you think back on being out of the cage, out of competition for 923 days, and to overcome everything you had to get back at it, is it almost like winning a world title in a way? Is it like one of the better achievements of your career by a lot so far, to bounce back from injury that, really put your career in some question, and to get back in the cage and to be so impressive when you get back to the cage after that?
Yeah, it felt really good. It was, it was definitely a big thing for me. I mean, about 2 years ago, I went into the doctor's office, in the middle of my UFC career, and the doctor told me that it was a less than 1% chance. It was very improbable that I would ever fight again, and my heart dropped. So it was a really hard moment for me. And then, I listened to the word he said. He said improbable, and I said, "Is improbable isn't impossible, right?" He said, "No, it's not, but it's less than 1% chance." And, I know from being a fighter that, out of all the fighters, there's less than 1% of them that make it to this level, that make it to the UFC. So I told him, I said, I'm one of the 1% of people that is going to make it. And, he said that he would do what we had to do, and he would support me if that's what I wanted to do, and that's what route I wanted to take. And that's what I did. And here I am now, I'm looking for my second win in a row. So, hopefully it goes down.
So I wanted to go back to the fight itself, this fight that ended this crazy long hiatus for you. That being, your win over Manny Bermudez. I rewatched it, and as the fight played out, you kept grabbing his wrist, threatening armbar, threatening triangle chokes. He seemed to be very comfortable being in that position several times. Yes, he has a filthy ground game, but so do you. Now, take me back to that moment. Was that him in your mind? Was that him being overconfident in that position? Was that you playing a little possum, kind of luring him in, trying to get him comfortable there? Or was it kind of all of those things and then some?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I think, I mean, it's not the position exactly I wanted to be in. I threw a kick, slid up his hip. He grabbed my leg, tree topped me a little bit, had my back in the cage. But, I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, even though the commentators, it sounded, pretty bad, Dominic Cruz and them, they're saying, oh, this is in the worst position you could be. And, I'm always taught as a fighter, you don't want to be on your back getting punched in the face. That's not what I practice for, it's not what I plan for. But, luckily for me, with my jiu-jitsu skills, I got some really, nice slick submissions off my back. And it's one of those submissions that I hit a lot. I mean, you look at all my wins, I get 6 or 7 wins by armbar in my professional career. So, he put himself in the worst position that he could be in. And, I definitely, it was something I saw. I went for it a couple times. He defended it wisely. But I think as he started hitting me more, he probably thought I was breaking, but, I knew I was there. I was focused the whole time. He even said to me after the fight, it was it was the weirdest thing. He's like, every time I punched you in the face, you wouldn't take your eyes off me. He's like, just kept looking at me like dead in the eye. Like, that didn't hurt. And then, I stayed focused, and I was able to snatch up the armbar, and I'm happy I did. I mean, I didn't, like I said, it's not where I wanted to be, but I'm happy I got the W and happy it worked out like that.
You mentioned the commentators making the point, oh, he's in a bad spot and stuff like that. Is that something you noticed afterwards rewatching the fight, or you actually heard them while you're in the cage in that moment saying that?
No, I didn't hear him, but, Daniel Cormier, I didn't even know because I didn't watch the fight till like a couple days later because, the way the broadcasting works. But Daniel Cormier hit me up and was like, hey, Rosa, I just want to apologize for, giving you kind of that bad rap. He's like, you pull that off. It was like amazing. I ended up getting the performance of the night bonus, $50K bonus for performance of the night. So, I got that call from Daniel Cormier. So, I made a joke with him. I was like, yeah, man, it's just because you don't know jiu-jitsu, you're a wrestler. So we had a good laugh, and it was cool. And, we wiped the slate clean. It was straight, but it's what it is.
Is that one of those weird moments? And you've been around the sport a long time. You've been at the highest levels, but to get a call from like someone like the caliber of Daniel Cormier saying, "I'm sorry, I underestimated you," is that like an amazing feather in the cap? Like, to get something like that, even as much as you've done.
Yeah, especially a champion like that. These are guys that I respect a lot, man. You know what I mean? But, this is, I'm one of those guys too. And, I plan on being the champion, and I plan on, climbing to the top. And, it's going to continue May 9th. I'm going to keep this ball rolling and, hopefully get another first round finish.
Bermudez missed weight a couple times at 135. Then he finally
Yep.
moves up to featherweight to face you. Then he misses weight by 2 pounds there too. For someone that has been in this game 8 years, battled back from over 2+ years out of the cage, was that whole thing like a big time? What the fuck, dude? What is going on? What is the
Yeah.
problem here? Do you feel like, and also, do you feel like there's kind of a growing lack of unprofessionalism for some fighters in MMA? Not all, but for some, because it seems like nowadays there's so many guys that are just fine missing weight. They're just okay with it, it seems.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it comes down to one word, and it's discipline. So that's when a guy misses weight, I'm actually like happy because first of all, I get a percentage of his purse, so I'm happy there. And second of all, I'm like, this guy, I don't think that he's just so much bigger than me. I mean, 1 or 2 pounds, he's 3, 4 pounds bigger than me. That's not what it is. It just shows that he's undisciplined. And like when you carry that into the weight cut, and you imagine how his training camp went. Was he missing days in training camp? Was he missing sessions? Was he doing his road work? Was he running? Was he dieting? These are all things that play into it. And one of the worst things that ever happened to me that was worse, I'm just happy that Manny actually fought me because I flew all the way to Japan with a fight out about 3 years ago. I flew all the way to Japan to fight Mizuto Hirota, and the guy missed weight by 5 pounds. I still accepted the fight, was going to fight him anyways. He somehow like fell off the scale, and the video like went viral, and they freaking canceled the fight on fight day. Like the morning of, they like Sean Shelby took me in the side room and was like, "Hey Rose, I got to talk to you." I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, Hirota can't fight. And I was like, what do you mean he can't fight? I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, well, who am I going to fight then? He's like, no, the fight's off. And I'm like, you're telling me, I'm like, can you find someone else? He's like, no, it's too short notice. I'm like, he's like, we can't find anyone. I go, you're telling me we're in Japan. There's friggin' 5 billion people. You can't find one kid to fight me. I got pissed. And he was like, no, just calm down, Charles. We're sorry, man. And you know what I mean? They took care of me, so I was happy about being compensated for it. But it was, I wanted to fight. I fought 20 amateur fights for free, so this is what I love to do.
Now, before we talk about what's coming up soon with this fight itself, with everything going on, we're all kind of going through this coronavirus stuff right now and the staying at home. But was there a part of you as you're trying to hope to get a fight soon this spring or whatever that is maybe frustrated or concerned, like, damn it, I was just out for 30 months. I'm finally back, and now this is happening. Come on, coronavirus. Jesus.
Yeah. It's part of the game. It seems to always be something with all my fights. Like my first fight ever against Dennis Siva was on short notice. I fought him on 4 or 5 days' notice in Stockholm, Sweden. I was undefeated going into it. Fought a top 10 guy. Had to cut like 33 pounds in 4 or 5 days. So that was like friggin' whirlwind. And then the next, another fight I had to fight. I was supposed to fight Jimmy Hedis. He pulled out. I was supposed to fight Augusto Mendez on 4 days' notice. Augusto Mendez pulls out 3 days' notice. I fight Kyle Bochniak. So like I go from fighting like a southpaw jiu-jitsu guy to a power striker, beast, athletic kid, Kyle Bochniak, and then I go to Japan, and Hirota misses weight, so it seems like it's always something. But hopefully everything goes smooth with this, and it's nothing that is new to me. I'm used to controversy. I'm used to the big fights. I'm used to a lot of pressure and stuff like that. So it is what it is.
And that perfectly transitioned to what I was going to ask next, because you've had such terrible luck with fights going through, but the entire industry right now is having that problem. We've seen events like, say, Bellator 241 postponed day of, or events postponed the day before, or whatever. So what is your confidence level on this? We're still about maybe a week or so away from the fight, a little bit less. Are you feeling confidence that May 9 is going to go off without a hitch, or is there part of you like, until I'm in the back warming up and they're telling me, okay, I got 10 minutes before I go to the cage or whatever, then I'll know this is for real?
Yeah, mentally I'm all in, and I think I have to be as a fighter. Like, there's no, there's always like in the back of your head, like, well, there's a possibility, like, if it doesn't happen, but that's something that's out of my control. I can only control the things I can, and the things that I can control is being in shape. Like, when people were asking me, like, oh, you worried about getting the coronavirus and this and that, or your fight, and I said, well, I'll tell you one thing. The only thing that I'm more worried about getting the coronavirus is going into the cage unprepared. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine going into a fight like not ready, and you have to some guy that's been training standing in front of you is ready to knock your head off. Like, so for me, like, that's what motivates me. I'm like, man, I'm gonna be in shape. I'm gonna be ready. So all that fear goes away, and everything in the outside is kind of a blur to me, and I can really put my head down and focus on training camp and focus at the real task at hand for me. I'm definitely taking like precautions with the corona thing, and trying to be like sensitive to it with certain things. But this for me is when I step in the cage, it's life or death for me. I'm willing to die in there, so I have to treat it like that in preparation for it.
Speaking of preparation, what has your training been like during this whole thing? I've talked to some fighters, and it hasn't been too bad. They've been where they want to be. I've talked to other fighters where they'll admit it's far from optimal, even on a lot of levels, and they're not happy with it, but they're making the best of it. Where do you sit about it? This far, how far we are from where your fight is to right now when we're recording. Do you feel like you're peaking? You're gonna hit that peak. You're gonna get to that spot you want to be back close to fighting. Where do you feel you are with weight cutting? I talked to one fighter like, some of the things he used for weight cutting weren't available with gyms closed, so he was worried about his fight before it eventually got postponed. Like, where do you feel on all these various things as we get closer to this in a world where gyms are closed and all these kinds of things are closed?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've been very fortunate. I trained American Top Team, top gym in the planet, and luckily for me, Dan Lambert was able to keep the gym open through this whole pandemic. So,
Okay.
only for professional fighters, I've been definitely having certain training partners that I have to stick with, and I'm not training with like 10 different guys. But as far as my coaches and my training, I've gotten everything I've needed. So I've been fortunate, living here in Florida, training the top team, and having Dan be able to pull those strings. And I think, man, I'm in the best shape of my life. I can honestly say that. I'm the best version of myself, like, by so much. Like, I think about myself when I came to the UFC 5 years ago, going against top 10 Dennis Seaver and, having fight the night against him. And I think of myself now, 5 years later, and the different level of MMA fighter and martial artist I am, and it's like light years different. So you're going to be in for a treat. You're going to be able to see, like, the Charles Rosa that I expected when I came into the UFC. UFC besides my last one injured. I had an injured neck and I fought with it my whole career, and it's something that luckily I was able to fix and move on to, and now I'm more confident than ever, and my skills are finally matched up with my toughness. So they're going to be able to see that May 9th. I'm excited to show the world.
I mean, and one of the concerns about a situation like this for all you guys, for the staff, for the fighters, are how contagious it is and exposing yourself to other people. But is that part of maybe not only, I mean, I'm sure you will want to take the fight no matter what, but what makes this situation easier for you? Because it's happening in Florida. You can just drive to the fight. You don't have to go to an airport, go to a plane and expose yourself to more people. Does that make that a relief in a lot of ways and take some of the stress off considering everything?
Yeah, it definitely helps that I can just drive up there. As far as like contracting it, like I said, I just got to do what I got to do and be as safe as I can. I mean, we're fighters, so we're the biggest risk takers there are, where that's what we're doing. I mean, think about what we're doing. We're going to lock each other in the cage and we're going to go fight each other. So it's, I'm the type of guy usually not too fearful of things, but I'm also wise enough to be able to, put myself in positions that I don't put myself in bad positions. Right. So these are all things that I, take into consideration and I go through, but yeah, I just, man, I try to block out the bad. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of bad stuff that goes around, and you hear stuff and stuff like that. But we had a conference call about a week ago, maybe less than a week ago, with Dana White. He said he just got off the phone with the president, Donald Trump. And it was very reassuring. He told us that we're going to be safe. Everything's going to be good. We're going to take all the precautions. Everything you guys are hearing isn't entirely true. It's a little bit, they're hyping it up a little bit. He has a lot of information that not everybody has, and we're going to be in good shape, and we're going to be healthy, and we're going to be safe, and that's what he promised us. So when I hear that from the boss and the people that are in charge, the people that run the country, that's what I want to believe, and that's what I'm going to believe. And because I want to fight too, so that is what it is.
That's fair enough. This is controversial for some and stuff like that for various reasons. Yeah. And I've talked to a few people in the last few weeks as fights fell through and whatnot, and they've talked about they've gotten kind of hate on social media for being a part of it, for training a fighter for it, for training themselves to fight. Have you encountered anything like that, like dealing with people like, oh, this is wrong, you shouldn't be doing it, and that kind of stuff?
I mean, there's always people like that. You learn, real quick as a fighter, and I learned it as an amateur. There's going to be a lot of haters out there, but I think it's the opposite of what you're saying. I think this is something that's going to give a lot of people something to be excited about. I've gotten more messages saying, "Hey, man, we really need this right now. We're really excited to see, this. This is something that the country needs. This is something we need, like something I need personally, like for fans saying that." And I think it's going to be one of those things that's going to kind of be us coming out of the other end of this pandemic, and we're going to kick it off May 9th, and it's going to be show the world that things are going to get back to normal. There's nobody better to do it than the fighters themselves, the UFC fighters. Like, we're going to fight for our country, we're going to fight for the world, and we're going to show that we can overcome and move forward with this, and hopefully things get better from here. And that's the information I've been given, so I'm just going to keep rolling with it.
So aside from power drill and scrotum humor, what are your thoughts on Bryce Mitchell? He's a guy on the way up, a lot of potential. He only has 3 less fights than you, but he's been in the sport 3 less years of experience than you. He's also another talented grappler like a Bermudez. First, is he as dangerous a grappler as Bermudez? Maybe better, or maybe what makes him different in terms of the grappling aspect of things compared to Manny?
I would say comparing Manny and Bryce. I did that myself with my coaches, and I came to the conclusion. I think Bryce probably is a little bit tougher, a little bit, more heart, more grit, probably like just a little more like, push behind him. But I would say technically Manny Bermudez definitely has better jiu-jitsu, a little bit of a smarter fighter and stuff like that. So, you compare the two. If I had to put both of them in the cage, I think, it's a good matchup, but I think talent-wise, man, he's a better fighter. There's no doubt about it. But this is I'm preparing for the best Bryce Mitchell, the toughest. I look at Bryce Mitchell, and the reason I wanted to fight him, is he's 12-0, he's undefeated, 3-0 in the UFC, coming off submission of the year. Everyone's talking about his jiu-jitsu skills, and I want to make it clear that I'm the best featherweight jiu-jitsu practitioner in the game. I'm the best jiu-jitsu MMA fighter in the world right now in my weight class, and I want to make that very clear. I said that in my last fight. Everyone said, no, you're going against Manny Bermudez. He has 12 wins. He's 12 submission wins. This guy's a monster. He submits everyone. Like, if you beat him, it's not going to be on the ground. And then I went out there and subbed him in the first round with the most basic, first submission you learn in the gym. So, I'm very confident. I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and, I train an American top team with the absolute monsters, like the best guys on the planet. And I know what my skills are. You can ask any one of my training partners who are all the UFC fighters and guys like that. Like, there's nobody that has my level of jiu-jitsu that in my division, and I'm excited to go out there and continue to show it. And if anybody wants to test me, they can step up, and I've left that offer all the time. But I'm just gonna keep going with this, keep pushing. Hopefully, when I get in there hopefully this fight goes down with Bryce, and I can make it happen, and then I can show the world what I've been working on.
And going to the theory and the idea of 2 high-level grapplers, jiu-jitsu practitioners going against each other, there's often the theory that 2 similar skill sets will cancel each other out, and you and Manny did not cancel out or brawl on the feet. He was very comfortable going to the ground with you, maybe overconfident like we talked about. Do you think there might be a better chance with Mitchell, that he might prefer to keep his standing longer until maybe it gets not so hot on the feet anymore? Or do you think he may be another guy that might be sleeping on your grappling and be willing to think, oh, I'm a better grappler than him again?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I hope both things. I mean, the thing is with the stand-up is, I've been all over the planet. I've trained in Thailand. I've trained in Dutch kickboxing. I train right here at American Top Team with the best coaches in the planet. And, man, my stand-up is a lot. I mean, if you look at all the guys I've fought in all the best strikers in the division at this point. And I've beaten them on the feet, most of them all. Dennis Seaver, Shane Burgos, Yair Rodriguez. These are all, some of the best stand-up guys in the division right now. And, the thing is with Bryce, man, I can see him coming in a little bit too hot, and if he comes in too hard, he's going to get dropped. I mean, I have very high level striking right now. I'm really confident. My power's back. It's something that I was lacking a little bit before because of my neck injury. I had some muscle atrophy, but I've built all this stuff back, and I'm really excited, to be able to put my hands on him. I didn't really get that chance last fight against Manny to really touch him with any shots, but you're going to see my power's back, and I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in too hard. He's going to get knocked out. So hopefully I can show my power this fight if he doesn't try to take it down too quick.
High-level athletes that have major injuries like that will often talk about that once they're going through their rehab recovery and stuff like that. It's about trusting in the injury and the body part again, and they have to kind of really be in the highest level of action to really trust it. Was it similar for you at all? Yeah. Did you need to go through a fight, as much training, as rigorous MMA training as did you need to go through a fight to really trust, okay, I'm fully back?
Yeah, I mean, I can admit a little now that it's over, but that first fight, I was nervous. I mean, I had that major neck injury, and even in the gym, I wasn't really sparring. Like I was kind of like if
Hmm.
I went to spar with someone, it was guys that I was like a lot better than, like that really probably couldn't hurt me if they
Okay.
tried, or smaller guys. So that was like, I just wanted to get to the fight against Manny, the Manny fight. I just wanted to make sure that I was healthy, that the fight happened. Like that was my only concern. I didn't care about being in the best shape of my life. I just said I got to get through this camp healthy. Like is if I had anything that started feeling weird, I just take days off and just get to the fight. Um, and when I got in the cage, I was like, man, I was gonna wonder what it's like to take it. And then first, he got me in the ground. He hit me like 3 or 4 hard shots, and well, I guess I'm good. I'm not gonna. I don't feel anything weird. There's no
Yeah,
tingling. There's nothing. So I just,
yeah.
kept my focus, got the armbar, and I'm like, the one thing I left there with, besides the $50,000 extra bonus and the submission in the night, is I left there with a lot of confidence, man. I took some of the hardest shots you could possibly take. I mean, being on my back, you smashing elbows and shots from on top of me from the top position. Those are the hardest shots you can pretty much eat because your head has nowhere to go. So I know I can take the shots. My chin's back. I'm strong. So I'm definitely confident in that. And I mean that's what it is. I mean I got that. And then this is my first fight after that.
Yeah.
That this is the first, like, now I had a full camp.
Mm-hmm.
I had everything. I have everything I needed. So I'm really confident going into this. Like I didn't, like, this whole camp I was sparring and doing everything like I normally would for a camp. So this was the normal camp for me, back to the way I wanted to train. So I'm excited.
All right, now one last question. Now I would assume, as the man known as Boston Strong, you're a Patriots fan, right?
Yeah, you already know.
All right.
Yeah.
So just like I asked Calvin Cater, I will ask you about it as well. So as a Giants fan, I'm speaking for all NFL fans and being thrilled that Tom Brady is gone. I love the news. Best news this year. Now,
Ain't over.
are you as a Patriots fan, are you prepared to be like the rest of us and have a lot more losses, a rebuilding season? Are you ready to
No.
be a normal NFL fan again?
No, that's like saying, that's accepting defeat. There's no way. There's no way I'm ready to accept any of that, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think Bill
Hmm.
Belichick's too good of a coach, and the Patriots have too smart and too good of a core, and they're not going to allow that. I mean, I'm so friggin' spoiled, so I don't even know what to say, because ever since I was watching football, since I was 11, 12, like 11 years old, I think is when Bledsoe got injured, and
Mm.
man, like Tom Brady took over. I've been a spoiled brat when it comes to football. We get the best. I've had Tom Brady my whole career. Just like, he's a legend. He's my favorite athlete. He's basically my idol. You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy to see him gone, but it still hasn't happened yet. Like, he hasn't played his first game yet, so I got to see. I'm still hoping that maybe there's a trade before the season starts or something. To get him back real quick. But yeah, man, I'm always rocking the Boston. I get the Mickey Ward boxing shirt on right
Nice,
now.
nice.
You know him, so he's a legend boxer from Boston. And but yeah, I just yeah, we'll see what happens. It's kind of cool that he's in Tampa though, because I'm in Florida, so maybe I could drive up for 1 or 2 of the games to go see him and Gronk. I got a decent relationship with Gronk, so maybe I can get up there and watch one of the games.
And what are your thoughts on like them answering the quarterback situation? Because you had some good names. Winston was out there. Philip Rivers for a time was out there. Cam Newton was out there. Andy Dalton. Are
Yeah.
you happy that with their quarterback situation that they didn't kind of get like that veteran name, a real respected name? Yeah, maybe. I mean, are you hoping maybe they go after Dalton then?
I think that they're grooming this guy. I think Stidham. I think they know something about him, kind of like Garoppolo. Like, they had Jimmy G. Like, dude, he was just a regular quarterback, and they groomed him to be a Super Bowl contender. He just played in the Super Bowl, and I thought he did really well. He just got a little bit outplayed by Mahomes, but I think he's an elite quarterback, and I don't think. I'm not saying his skills aren't elite, but I think a lot of it had to do with his coaching and him being groomed right, and that's what they're doing with Stidham. Like, you always see the Patriots quarterbacks come in and perform because I feel like quarterbacks are coached right. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm hoping, at least. So we'll see.
Hopeful is I would guarantee it's hopeful.
Hopeful guy.